Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that talks with tomorrow's hoop stars. I am Rich Harrison. Thank you for joining us again. Today's episode, we're going to have multiple guests, and Jake is here. And I'll tell you what, folks, don't forget to write us at admin@hoopsprospects.com, because any listener who can guess how many times Jake nods off during this episode. And if you are within one, I will send you a Hoops Prospects t-shirt or a Hoops Prospects coffee mug. Your call. How you doing, Jake?
I'm good. Volleyball season rages on. The team hasn't been home in like a month, so they're finally home this weekend. I will be working every day this weekend, putting in some long hours. I probably should have stopped at Dunkin' for a coffee on my way home. I passed by there and was like, I even looked in and I was shocked to see it was still open at like 7 o'clock. Maybe I should have stopped in there, but for the Atlantic 10, I'll make an exception here.
Yes.
And we did great conference. Very excited to talk about that.
In this episode, we're going to be doing the Atlantic 10 and the American Conference. However, we're going to be recording on separate days due to time constraints today. And in full disclosure, Jake did nod off once last episode, which is why I was laughing at the end.
Yeah, I was fighting through it at the end.
Yeah.
We started getting to like the bottom feeders in the WCC, and we started to
we're going through the intrigue of the Air Force Academy's basketball team, and Jake just
no disrespect to them, by the way. No disrespect to anybody. Just got to be a struggle there toward the end.
Sure. All right, so we'll start off with the A10, and no realignment, which is good. Though UMass leaves next year for the Mid-American, I believe.
Yeah, what a joke. What a joke.
And there were two coaching changes. And do you have any comments on those two changes, Jake?
Listen, Duquesne, they were my upset pick in the tournament last week or this past year. Jesus,
right.
I'm off to a hot start, Rich. Oh, so sad to see Keith Dambrot go, because that was quite the run they went on. I was at the Atlantic 10 tournament. It's like they just kept winning.
No?
They just kept winning. And even not this past season, Rich, but the year before, I thought they had another really strong team that could have won the Atlantic 10 tournament. They lost to LaSalle in their first game, but they got it back this year. Drew Joyce takes over. Really interesting kind of situation there, because he had been, he was coached by Keith Dambrot at St. Vincent St. Mary's on that LeBron James team, and then has kind of been his understudy, if you will, the last couple of years. And I thought he actually had a really good transfer portal. I think Duquesne's going to be really interesting this year. So I think that's definitely a pretty cool one to keep your eye on. And then, hey, we have to talk about St. Louis, because this was one of the, if not the best hire of the entire offseason.
No?
Josh Schertz. And I don't want to spoil anything. We'll get into it, but I think this is a coach, Rich. I strongly believe this is a coach that you buy stock in right away. It's easy to get enamored with. A new coach comes in, a bunch of transfers come in. I think this is one you buy, though. We'll get into that, but I think this is a hype that you buy, and this is some momentum you buy with this team. It's a good program. They have money, resources, a fan base. And I think this is an absolutely perfect.
And a great area to draw players from, too.
Yeah, right in the Midwest, where Josh Schertz has been not only at Indiana State, but Lincoln Memorial as well. That was the Division II school he was at prior. Like, this was like a totally like a home run hire in so many different areas, in my opinion. Right. But we'll get into it. But two interesting ones. Two interesting ones for sure.
So just to review a little bit of what happened last year, Richmond and Loyola-Chicago shared the regular season title. Richmond got the number 1 seed in the A10 tourney, but it didn't matter because 6th seed Duquesne won the A10 tourney and got the automatic bid, and they were joined in the tournament by only Dayton, who was a 7th seed. Duquesne was an 11th seed. They both won their first games. Yeah, didn't they?
Dayton lost. Yes, yes. In the NCAA tournament,
Yes, in the
both
NCAA
they did
tournament.
both win their
Yeah,
first games
yeah.
because
So that was
Dayton lost to I think it was Duquesne actually. Dayton lost their first game in the A10 tournament. I think it was actually to Duquesne.
right. And you were actually physically there for a lot of that, correct?
Yes, I was. I was even there on the first day for St. Louis, Rhode Island.
Right,
There for
right.
all of it. Just about. Just
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, you were balancing between Big East and A10.
Yeah.
So the player of the year was shared, a little surprising, between Deron Holmes of Dayton and Jordan King of Richmond. Deron Holmes also made multiple All-American teams, so that's why I said it was a little surprising that King also got the award. Um, and Defensive Player of the Year also went to Holmes. Of course, he went on to be drafted by the Denver Nuggets and unfortunately tore his Achilles in Summer League, so we won't see him this year. But yeah, first round draft pick. And the newcomer of the year was Xavier Brown from St. Joe's, freshman, who had an excellent season. So now we'll move on and we'll start at the top. I actually today changed my pick. So I'll tell you who I had, and then we can talk about. I had Dayton initially to win this conference. And of course, they lost the aforementioned Holmes. They also lost Kobe Brea, who was the sixth man of the year in the conference last year and one of the best shooters in the entire country. He goes to Kentucky. Kobe Elvis also goes to Oklahoma. They have a fair amount returning, especially in the guard department. Nate Santos is kind of a do everything kind of player. He returns, and he's probably the best player on the team as it stands. Enoch Cheeks returns, Malachi Smith, and Javon Bennett, who replaced Malachi Smith in the starting lineup last year. They are some of the key returners. And then they did a nice job in the portal, grabbing two players that I think are going to be fighting for all conference spots in Posh Alexander and Zed Key. Lastly, they have redshirt Marvell Allen, who was actually with the team last year, but redshirted. He was a 3-star. He's a shooting guard. And they also bring in a guy who played for Collet or in the Collet system in France. He's a 4-star guy. That's my rating. They don't rate international guys coming over, but if I had to rate him, I'd call him a 4-star, and that's Emel Etang, and he is a center, and he might actually be valuable for this team because they really, as good as Zed Key has been in the past, he's really not a shot blocker. And Isaiah Jack, who came over from Buffalo last year, didn't have a huge impact. So I would be surprised if the freshman gets some playing time. So, Jake, what are your thoughts on Dayton?
Yeah, lots of like with the guards, going to be very deep. Javon Bennett really stepped in the when Mal and it sucks because all Malachi Smith does is get hurt and he just can't put it all together, which is it's
Ever
really a
since
shame.
his freshman year, he's fine, and then since then,
Yeah, two injuries early in the year that just completely derailed him. But Javon Bennett coming in from Merrimack last year, he stepped in very well.
mhm.
He's a smaller, a quicker guy, but he stepped in well. I mean, he was a starting point guard on a team that got to the tournament and they won a game. So big. I mean, obviously the question is what's the big guy play going to look like? Because Zed Key's a guy who I think he's going to be really really good in this league, but he's had some injury concerns as well. You mentioned he's not much of a shot blocker. When you have a guy like Deron Holmes who literally could do everything, he could shoot the three, he could block shots, he could defend on the perimeter. Like he did everything. So to lose a guy like that who can be like an eraser almost as far as your problems go, and like you can get a bucket with him, you can get a stop on defense. Losing a guy like that is massive. But I think Zed Key, if he can stay healthy offensively, can be a really good center in this league. Jacob Connor is a guy they're going to need to play the 4, maybe some of the 5 as well. It's just they're going to need people to step up Not just it's going to have to be like big guy by committee, if you will. They're going to need a lot of contributions from all of their bigs. But I look at the guards, and I'm going to put Nate Santos separate because he's obviously more of a forward and a four. But getting him back, he put his name in the portal. Getting him back is huge as a guy that can space the floor a little bit. And then to go along with their four guards, I actually think Posh will work here. And the problem is, like, he's never been on a good team. He's never been on a tournament team.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think he can work here. Very good defensive coach in Anthony Grant. Is going to get one of the better on-ball defenders in the sport in Posh Alexander here. Enoch Cheeks was a very good on-ball defender last year as well. Like, there's a lot to like with Dayton, but I'd see that they can go four guards deep, and I think that is enough to keep them in like the top three. I have them as a top three team in the league. I don't have them winning though.
Okay.
But they'll still be very good. There's a lot of returners, deep guards, and I think the bigs will, like, Zed Key can stay healthy. He'll be one of the better bigs in this league.
Right. With Zed, he was on the show 2 years ago. And at the time, he really relied a ton on strength and girth. And when he got injured, he injured his shoulder. So that didn't prevent him from, using his lower body. And when he came back last year, he had lost a ton of weight. And at times, with Ohio State last year, he looked overmatched. He looked too thin. And he looked like he couldn't do the same things that he used to be able to do. I'm serious. When I first saw him last year, I didn't recognize him. That's how much weight he lost.
Yeah.
And I think he's got to find a happy medium. He's either got to change his game to play more like a slim down power forward, or he's got to you don't need to put on the fat, but you need to put on the muscle, to play the way he used to be able to play when he could people would bounce off of him. All right, we're going to move on to VCU, and we talked to their best player, or I spoke to their best player today, Max Shulga, and he's one of a number of players that are returning. The two key players they really lost were Toby Lawal, who is a tremendous athlete. I mean, this guy can jump out of the gym. Not a huge offensive threat except for like running the rim and putbacks and stuff like that. But he's still young. And they also lost Sean Bairstow, who was kind of like a point forward for VCU. He averaged I think he was second on the team behind Max in assists. And those two played well off of each other. But a lot of guys come back on this team. Joe Bemasili, Zeb Jackson, Christian Furman, Fats Billups, Michael Bell. And then in the portal, they bring in Jack Clark, he's another guy that never seems to be able to stay healthy. But Max had all kinds of good things to say about Clark today. And Philip Russell, who's was a very effective point guard at UT Arlington. And they also have two interesting recruits coming in. Luke, I'm not sure how you say this name. Luke, I'm going to say Bamboy, I think it's Bamboy. And he was number 141 in the composite rankings. And Brandon Jennings at 290. And is that Brandon Jennings' son? Because didn't Brandon Jennings, the guy who played for the Milwaukee Bucks for years, went to East Tennessee? I was just curious. I didn't look him up. He was 290 in the composite ranking, so a 3-star. But anyway, lot to like here. I would say of all the teams in the conference, they're probably bringing back the most.
Yeah, I think that bringing back the most like effective, like they have guys that produce a lot that are coming back. You look at some of the guys that left, like Toby Lawal is he's one of the best athletes in the sport.
Yes.
Offensively, there wasn't too much to offer.
Not yet.
Bairstow, I think, is a big loss. because with him and Shulga having played at Utah State together, like they had been together a while, they did play off each other very, very nicely last year, even coming over to VCU. Like Jason Nelson was a reserve guard, didn't play much. Roosevelt Wheeler barely got off the bench. So like some of these guys that left, like it's not like they're losing like a bunch of crazy contributors, and there's like the cupboard's bare because Shulga is back, a guy who plays under control, who can score from every level, just a really, really solid guy. And he's in his fifth year. And Zeb Jackson's in his fifth year. A sixth year, actually, I think, for Zeb. And Bama Still's on his fourth school in his fifth year.
Yeah. And
You
he's a
have
bucket. And he's a bucket. He only played about 22 minutes per game last year, and he was still one of their leading scorers.
Yeah, until there was oh God, what's not a was it a temporary restraining order? Is that what it was when it basically all the two-time transfers were just like, hey, you're free to play, you can do whatever. Like
he
fell victim to that. I know he tried to appeal and play right away. They turned it down, and then when the Band-Aid got ripped off, he came in there and he was a good player for him. He's a good athlete, and he can score, shoot the ball pretty well. Like there is some serious scoring, some athleticism, and some experience here, Rich. And even you throw in a Philip Russell and a Jack Clark, even the guys they're bringing in. I mean, Jack Clark, way back when, people may forget, he started his career at LaSalle. He's from Cheltenham, which is probably 20 minutes from me. He's back in the A10, really successful at Clemson last year, team that made the Elite Eight. Like, I think he's a great, like, complementary piece. Can kind of be like a Swiss Army knife, can kind of be a glue guy for them with some experience, has been in this league.
And he's 6'10". So, I mean.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Nice size. And hey, Philip Russell, you're adding another guy that's got NCAA tournament experience because 2 years ago he was at SEMO and he played there, and then he was good at UT Arlington last year. Unfortunately, they fell short the Grand Canyon in the WAC championship game. But you just add another like lightning rod off the bench who could score. So I see scoring, I see experience, and I think Christian Furman's due for a breakout here. And I think if VCU is going to win the conference, they're going to need him to play like he did down the stretch in the NIT and down the stretch of the season as well. Like there's a lot to like with VCU, and if Furman has a good year, Rich, look out. This will be your champ. But this is who I think will win. And how many times did I tell you Ryan Odom was my favorite hire of the offseason last year? And he got to the A10 tournament championship in his first year. And then, Bama still wasn't ready to start the season. He had a bunch of new players. And was it Bairstow or was it Shulga? One of them dealt with an injury. I think it was Bairstow. Somebody came in.
Shulga did. He missed a few games. Actually, he told me today that one of the reasons why he didn't stay in the draft is because when he worked out for the Spurs, he wasn't 100%. And he got feedback from them. And after that, he decided, I'm not going to continue to push through this injury because I'm not going to be doing my best. And he decided to come back.
Yeah. And he almost went to Villanova.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was actually like committed to very loose term. He basically had verbally committed to Villanova, and then he boomeranged back to VCU. But if VCU had lost him, I mean, we're having a different conversation. But the fact they get him in here, like they get him back, you have one of the best scorers and the best players in this conference,
playmakers too,
with a very good rest of the team. So I'll take VCU as my champ. I'm projecting a nice bump here from Christian Furman because they have just about everything else. They have some size, they have experience, depth at the guard position, scoring, athleticism. If the big guy can really be solid for them, they're gonna win it this year, and they're my pick to do so.
And they are mine too. That's who I swear. After talking to Max today, he convinced me, and I changed my pick to VCU. I initially had Dayton on VCU too, but I'm going with VCU. All right, so we'll move on to Loyola-Chicago. It was one of the more pleasant surprises last year, and I don't want to say I told you so, but if anyone listened to our A10 episode last year, I said Loyola looked like they were ready to bounce back and should be near the top of the conference, and that's exactly what they did. So they do lose a really key piece in Braden Norris, their point guard. Has moved on to the pros. So has Philip Alston, power forward. Those are their two main losses. But they do bring back, again, another team that brings back a quite a bit, and they also hit the portal hard too. But the two main pieces they're bringing back is Des Watson, shooting guard, and Miles Rubin, who I think do you realize Rubin last year played a little over 17 minutes per game, and I think he averaged 2.6 shot blocks per game. Meaning, if he played a full game, he'd average about 4 block shots a game. So if he's not a defensive player of the year candidate, I don't know who is. A lot of interesting guys came from the portal, including Jalen DeLoach, who used to play at VCU, then went to Georgia. Now he's back in the A10, but for Loyola. Kamani Huminsu, a high recruit that has played well at his first 2 years at Washington State. Probably not quite lived up to his potential, but he's an interesting athlete, long athlete, good defender. Justin Moore comes over from Drexel, point guard, and I think he's going to end up starting be the replacement for Norris on this team. And they too had some nice recruits. They had Danil Glazikov, a shooting guard. He was number 133 in a composite. And Sefeldin Hendaway, I think I'm saying that, or Hende, who played at the NBA African Academy. And so we keep our eyes on all those NBA Academy guys, and they usually don't get ranked in the composite rankings. So, and Hendaway, the last time I looked, was it okay? The time before, like when I initially did the freshman and added him to the draft board, he wasn't ranked. But now he is. And a lot of times what happens, so he's at 160, but a lot of times people don't update their boards, their recruiting boards as often, or they're just not aware of these NBA Academy guys. So a lot of times these guys are underrated because not everybody knows they're even out there. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this guy turns out to be better than the number 160 recruit. He's, by the way, is a forward. So Jake, I'm going to let you take it from here. Do you think Justin Moore's taking over at the point, and how do you think he's going to do?
Yeah, I think he'll take over, and I think he'll do well here. He just needs to be a little more consistent because he's got some games where he's brilliant, scoring 20, big shots late, not turning the ball over. But then there's other times where, there's a rough shooting night, maybe some turnovers in there. Like, he's a good player. He is. And Drexel was really good last year in the CAA. I think he'll be effective here. He can certainly help Loyola be in the top 4, top 5 conversation, if not higher. He's just got to be a little bit more consistent because there's a whole lot to like here because Miles Rubin is one of the best shot blockers on the East Coast in the Midwest. I mean, he's one of the best shot blockers potentially in the country, certainly in this league. And then to bring back a nice athlete to shooting guard position, Des Watson is big. I love the bounce back that they had last year because there's, they get into the A10 2 years ago. They just come from the Missouri Valley. They were it was Missouri Valley.
Yes, because they were only there for like a year, maybe a few years at most.
Yeah. But look, A10. This is a really good league. So they jumped in. They weren't, they were last at the time they had jumped to the Atlantic 10 was when that team who had just made the tournament with Drew Valentine, everybody, like all their experience left. They didn't have Crutwig. They didn't have Lucas Williamson. They lost all their experience. It was like the worst possible recipe to jump into this league with. And Drew Valentine showed that that was not like a flash in the pan year he had winning the going to the tournament his first year. They were very good last year. Unfortunately, lost early in their first game. How about this A10 tournament last year, Rich? Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, who got the double buys, they all lost their first game.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
you know what the odds of that happening are? Probably infinitesimal.
Yeah, I was there for the first game that day. Number 1, Richmond lost. Then number 2, Dayton lost. And then you had Loyola, I think, was the 2. They lost. Dayton lost. It was the 3. And then I think UMass was the 4. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, boom. All go down. So, but look, this is going to be a good team. Deloche to bring another guy who's been successful in this league before, give them another big next to Ruben will be good. To me, they're top 5. Justin Moore, I think, is like a swing piece here because I think he'll start. He has to be good right away and be consistent to get them into that to keep him in the top 5. Excuse me, but the requisites are here to be a team that could push for the crown in this league for sure. A lot of good returners, good portal. They're here to stay.
All right. Next up is a team near and dear to both of our hearts, and that's St. Joseph's. And they've lost some good talent. Cameron Brown graduated. Lynn Greer went to Temple, and Creased
Isandiko.
Okay, and Creased Isandiko moved on to Providence. However, even with those defections, I believe that St. Joe's will put together the best starting 5 in the A10. My question is, do they have the depth to make it all the way? So here's one thing about having the best starting 5. When it comes tournament time, the A10 tournament time, you can, you need depth for when guys go down. But if they're healthy, if they're healthy going into the A10 tournament, don't be surprised even if they finish like 5th in this league, if they still run the table and end up going to the tournament. So what are your thoughts about this team? I think they have 3 player of the year candidates, and obviously they're going to cancel each other out to some degree. And to me, the best player on this team for pro prospects is Rasheer Fleming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got to interview Rasheer 2 weeks ago.
On your Big 5 podcast, so you never promote correct. Here. Jake has a Big 5
I should podcast. Do that more. Any Big 5 fans out there, if you're not from Philly, would love to tell you about the Big 5. A lot of good teams there too, but I think Villanova will be maybe a little bit better next year. We'll save that for another day. Bottom line, link is in my bio if you'd like to listen to my pod. Cover all the Big 5 teams of Philadelphia. Rasheer is easily the best pro prospect in the city. He can defend smaller guards. He can step out and hit the 3. He's got the size, the wingspan. He has the measurements and the intangibles you look for in a big forward. He hits the glass. He can block shots. Like, he can play a small ball 5. Like, he has a pro game in so many aspects. And literally since the first game he played there, which is against, I think, Houston, he was number 3 at the time, his freshman year, like, he has made an impact and he has been very good. So he can play a small ball 5. He can play the 4. This will be the 3rd different starting center that he's played next to, by the way, in the 3 years that he's been there. So he's very adaptable to any.
And on a bigger team, he might play the 3.
I'm hoping that we can see some more wing stuff out of him this year. I'm hoping we can see him attack a little bit more out there. But we'll get into the guards. Eric Reynolds is my player of the year this year in the conference. He can score at will.
Friend of the show, Eric Reynolds.
Yeah. When I was at the A10 tournament and they played Richmond, I think he had 30 of, like, he basically had half their points. Like, he is capable of willing them to a victory.
As he did against Kentucky.
Yeah, just as he almost did, and probably should have against Kentucky.
Oh, right. That game went in OT. I forgot.
Yeah,
and they lost.
OT. And then we can't forget about Xavier Brown as well, the newcomer of the year in the conference. I got to send you the video of this buzzer beater he hit in high school at the Palestra in the Catholic League Championship to send it to overtime against a team that had Rob Wright on it, who's going to be starring at Baylor this year. But anyway, 3 terrific scores, 3 of the best players in this conference. And I want to talk about the rest of the starting 5 here because they bring in 2 transfers. One is Derek Simpson from Rutgers, who's from Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and actually his first offer, because I got to interview Justin Scott, the associate head coach at St. Joe's. Derek Simpson, his first offer was St. Joe's. And he's played with some of these guys before. So there's a familiarity of him coming there. And I think with his athleticism, his defense coming from Rutgers, he'll play defense having played for Steve Peichel, and his ability to score inside the arc, a pull-up jump shot, get to the rim.
And transition, too. He's a
I think he's
blur.
a really good complement to Xavier and Eric Reynolds, who can score the ball and want the ball in their hands a lot. I think he can still make an impact, but defensively, he'll be a huge asset. And then Kreese Sandico does a lot of good stuff. He can pass a little bit. Like he's not the slightest of foot, but he's a massive guy.
Massive.
I mean, he's a load inside to have to deal with. So he can pass a little bit. He can stretch the floor. There's a lot to like about his game. But I think Justice Ajabo coming in from Harvard, I think he's a better fit for the starting lineup because they need a shot blocker, first and foremost. He'll defend the rim. I mean, he was hurt last year, and you didn't get to see him play in every game, but did average almost 3 blocks a game. I mean, you're talking about one of the best shot blockers in college last year. So a guy like Justice who can block shots, be a lob threat, a big guy, a wide guy who can set screens and get these guys open and free them up a little bit and get them switches on the bigs. Like, I think Justice is a better fit for this lineup. They don't need somebody like Kreese who can, do it all. Like, Justice will have a defined role. He'll be an anchor defensively, set screens, be a lob threat for these guys. Like, I think this is a better fit for the team than Kreese was. Now, you bring up a good point because depth-wise, they're very young. They have 4 freshmen coming in, as they always do. They'll hit the portal a little bit, but St. Joe's is very much like recruit the local area, the DMV, Philly, and still bring in 3 to 4 guys. They're still very big on player development. But they're just a little bit young. Anthony Finkley, Sean Simmons, like these guys, they were playing behind so much talent and guys that you knew were going to play last year. You didn't get to see it from them a lot. But Sean Simmons, really good athlete who's got length, who can defend. He'll have to shoot the ball a little bit better. And then Finkley's kind of like a point forward. You got to see him play in high school a little bit. He's a nice player, but he's another guy. Like, hey, if you want to play for Billy Lang, you got to be able to shoot and you got to be able to play defense. You certainly got to be able to do those 2 things. So depth-wise, maybe a little bit of a concern with the youth, and you don't have that proven production. But I'm going to tell you about one guy I want you to put a pin in, Rich.
All right.
That's Dacier Haskins. So he is from Willingboro, New Jersey, kind of close, like right over the bridge from Philly. Went to Camden. He redshirted last year. He's like 6'6". I tried to ask for Sheer. I was like, how big is this guy? He was like, he's almost as tall as I am at like 6'8", 6'9". He's big. He can shoot the 3 from his redshirt year. Even Justin Scott, who I interviewed, was saying, like, this guy's going to handle the ball a little bit and be able to make plays and pass a little bit. Like, I think Dacier Haskins, kind of a mystery man because we didn't see him play last year and he redshirted. But I think Dacier Haskins can be a big player on this team, potentially as a 6th or 7th man, and give him a big lift off the bench that they're going to need, even with how talented the starting lineup is. Defensively is going to kind of be their Achilles heel. St. Joe's going to put up a lot of threes. They're kind of going to live and die by it. But they have 2 terrific scoring guards, a really good defensive big man, a really good do-it-all forward in Rasheer Fleming. I think Derek Simpson's going to fit in nice. If this team defensively can find a way to be better, they'll be top 5 this year, and they'll crack the top 5 in the conference.
Simpson, I got to see Simpson in person a few times last year at Rutgers. He's a blur going up and down the court. Guy is really deadly in transition. He's slight, he's small, but he really can run and jump for that matter. What do you think about freshman Steven Solano? It looks like this team's going to need a backup big.
Yeah, I think that like the good thing is with Rasheer, like, you can take Justice Ajabo off the floor and you can have Rasheer play the 5, and you can play a 3-2 zone. You can have him straight up just play the 5. Like, he's got the intangibles to match up with the 5s in this league. Steve Solano is massive. Steve Solano is a big dude. He's a really big guy. So even as a freshman, I think he can play a little bit. But if you just like see him out there, like, God, he's a big physical presence who should be able to block a lot of shots and gobble up some rebounds. So not sure what his role will be because there's a lot of experience, and I feel like you kind of know what the maybe top 7 or 8 are going to look like for this team. But there's certainly a path for Steven Solano to hit the floor for St. Joe's probably not too much. I think maybe as the year goes on, we see, but
if he can give him 10 minutes per game, that just might be enough,
Yeah. But the thing is, again, like Justice goes off the floor, you can put somebody else in. Like Bashir being able to play the 4 or the 5 might limit that.
I got you. So the next team we're going to talk about, and I think this is probably the last team that we're going to talk about that is really a championship contender in this conference, and that is St. Louis. And St. Louis has lost a ton. The main pieces that they lost was Sincere Parker, which isn't actually a huge blow because he didn't play a lot for the team. It's more what they could have been with Sincere Parker, but he only played about half the season last year. The other piece is Terrence Hargrove, a shooting guard who moved on to the pros, and he was a double-figure scorer. They still have Gibson Jimerson, one of the best shooters in the country at the wing. He is 37 years old. I mean, he's 25, I believe. But for this team, it is good to have somebody like him because so many new pieces are there. It's nice to have a proven veteran, and this guy could shoot. And we're talking about Brandon Jennings. This team has a Larry Hughes Jr. team, and he is Larry Hughes's son, who also played at St. Louis. But interestingly, Larry Hughes and Brandon Jennings played together in the pros. Yeah. So who comes in? A bunch of good players, starting with Robbie Avila. And the center for Indiana State, with the big goggle-like glasses, because he has some kind of eye problem. It's not just for protecting his eyes. He actually has a vision issue. But, he's a tremendous college basketball player, and I hope, he's on our radar but right now he's probably too slow, foot speed wise, but man, this guy can score inside now. I mean, he's not only like 6'10" and huge, but he's a great 3-point shooter. And in comes in also from Indiana State, Isaiah Swoop, who played last year hurt for a good portion of the season with, I can't remember the injury, but it was significant. And so he was playing in pain, and he still was a very explosive combo guard, a really good shooter, really dynamic shot creator. A couple other guys that come in is AJ Casey, who was a high recruit for Miami. He's a power forward. Didn't really get the playing time at Miami, and he's now here at St. Louis. Also, Kalu Anya, a power forward from Brown, who was a steady piece for them, and a couple other players that are coming in. They also have Dylan Warlick, a 3-star, coming in at small forward. So, Jake, what do you think about this? By the way, Max Shulga referred to his coach as an offensive mastermind. Well, St. Louis now, too, has an offensive mastermind as their head coach.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to be top 5. I don't know if they can win this conference. They can be damn close, Rich. I think if everything goes well for them and these guys can gel like we think that they can, and Schertz will be as good as he was in the Missouri Valley in the Atlantic 10, like this is going to be a really good team, Rich. Offensively, Robbie Avila is one of the most captivating players in the sport. Indeed. As you said, he can score inside and out. Like he is terrific. Larry Bird.
You know what it is? He looks so unlikely to be able to do what he does. He's
a basketball player.
Right. Yeah. And he doesn't look like a basketball player. He looks like a mad scientist.
That's why college basketball is such a beautiful game, Rich.
Yeah.
And guys like him. Larry Bird. What other nicknames did they have?
Oh my God, they had a great one for him.
Cream
yeah,
yeah. He's instantly gonna be one of the best players in this conference, Rich. You bring in Isaiah Swope, who could score as well, and then they have some size, AJ Casey, Kaluanya, like they're gonna be they're gonna be really good right away. But here's why I think they're gonna be really good. The Gibson, Jimerson, Josh Schertz like connection here is awesome. This is, I think, one of the best retentions in like all of college basketball is getting Gibson, Jimerson to stay. Like you have one of the, if not the best 3-point shooter in the history of St. Louis staying to now give Josh Schertz a flamethrower and a surefire dead-eye 3-point guy who's gonna thrive in his offense. So I'm telling you, like, I think we look back at that and we're like, wow, like that was one of the best ones. But one of the best guys that stayed, as Trilly Donovan says, sometimes the best gets are the ones you already have. That's an example of it right there. Gibson Jimerson's going to be awesome in this offense around Robbie Avila, around Isaiah Swope. Like, so much to like. And I think guys like Kellen Thames and Larry Hughes that stayed as well will also have some scoring roles here that, like, they're going to be really good. I think certainly this is a top 5 team. If maybe they are 5, maybe they're a little bit higher. I'll put it this way: I'm buying the hype on Josh Schertz wherever you have him. If you have him 2, you have him 3, fine with me. I think they're going to be right up there. They're going to be really competitive in this league from day one.
Yep, and I think they're one of the serious contenders in this conference to make the NCAA tournament. Now we're moving into kind of the middle of the pack region, I would say. Next up on my list is George Mason. They lost a couple key pieces in Amari Kelly, and more importantly, Keyshawn Hall went on to UCF. They bring back Darius Maddox, former Virginia Tech player, who's, I think, a possible player of the year candidate in this league. They also had some nice transfers in Zach Anderson, who has kind of played very, very well for Florida Gulf Coast, but nobody knows, much about him. Excuse me. And KD Johnson, the man with no conscience when it comes to shooting the ball. He's supposed to be a point guard, but he forgets the passing part. And KD will shoot from anywhere, but he is a very talented athlete. He's very good end-to-end speed, fearless driver for a little guy, and he's muscular too. So he doesn't shy away from attacking the basket. So I think George Mason has a team here to be pretty competitive. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I think they can actually be a sleeper here. And I think you have, so if you have VCU, Dayton, Loyola, St. Joe's, St. Louis, like, I think that's a pretty strong top 5 there. Like, I think logically Mason 6. I think they're going to be very solid once again here. Even in Tony Skin's first year, they were good. And then mid-season, they kind of had a weird situation going on because there was some speculation that Keyshawn Hall was going to sit out the rest of the season.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so basically it was like Keyshawn Hall was going to sit out, and this became a big talking point because people thought that with the transfer portal being what it is and NIL, that more people were going to do this. People had speculated that Keyshawn Hall had already picked out his next transfer spot and was going to sit out the rest of the year to not jeopardize that. So he goes to the A10 tournament. They lose to St. Joe's in the first game, and who's to say if he was hurt or not? He didn't look right out there. I certainly believe he was hurt, but doesn't play very many minutes in that game, and they lose. And then it's like the floodgates just kind of opened. Baraka Koje, who I thought was a nice player, went to Memphis. Amari Kelly went.
He's a nice combo guard.
Yeah, nice defensive guard. I think he'll be good at Memphis, who we'll get into when we talk AAC. But look, you have Woody Newton, who's got some high-level experience, Power 5 experience at Syracuse and Oklahoma State. Maddox is one of the best scorers in this conference, so you have a guy like that. I think KD Johnson's going to tear this league up, man. I know he's erratic, and he plays like with his hair on fire, but, I mean, on both ends, his speed, his defense, like his tenacity, I think KD Johnson's going to be a really good player in this conference. So with that core that they have and the transfer class, like Mason can certainly be competitive. I think they're on the outside looking into that top 5-6.
Yeah, I think, you know what I think they are? I think they're one center. If they had a steady big man, I think this team could be really ultra competitive because Zach Anderson, if you haven't seen him play, he's a stat sheet stuffer. He doesn't excel at one thing, but he does everything. And so he's a really good player. And I think he's going to be, make all conference in this league. And so you got three players that are potential all conference players in KD, Maddox, and Anderson. And one thing that seems to be missing is a really good center. And then, man, they'd be competitive. So if someone emerges somewhere down the line, watch out. The next team we're going to talk about is Duquesne, the surprise of the A10 tournament, and they carried that momentum into the NCAA tournament. And unfortunately, this team loses a ton of good players. Jimmy Clark moves on to the pros. D.D. Grant, he hasn't signed with a pro team. Now, a lot of these guys, when I say they don't sign with a pro team, a lot of them are waiting to see if they get an Exhibit 10 contract, or they're waiting to when the G League starts signing players. So yes, that's why D.D. Grant might not be on a team. He probably doesn't want to play in Europe. He wants to play in the G League, and so that's why he's not signed with anyone. Fuseni, Drame, who we know from the St. Peter's days, also had a really nice year for Duquesne last year. He's gone. Andrei Sarasov, nice player. He's gone. Dusan Mahorik, who's a huge man, used to play for NC State. He's gone. Even Trey Williams, who was kind of down the depth chart on this team, but he's playing in the pros too. So this shows you how loaded this team was last year, and they kind of did it right under our nose. The two best players that are coming back are David Dixon, who's a really good defender, but not a great not a great scorer, and Kareem Rozier, point guard, who played behind Grant and Clark. Coming in from the portal, Maximus Edwards was a solid player for GW last year, double-figure scorer. He figures to start. Alex Williams was a double-figure scorer for Furman at the wing spot. He figures to start. And I think Jashawn Corbett also was a double-figure scorer for Chicago State. He figures to start at one of the forward spots. So I don't know. I don't see a star on this team. I don't see a center on this team. I don't even see a point guard that I'm in love with on this team. But they do have a lot of options and a lot of versatile players.
Yeah, absolutely. And the scoring, I mean, to lose a Trey Clark and Day Grant as well. I mean, those are two of the best scorers in this conference, and certainly like maybe the best 1-2 punch last year.
Yeah.
Like to lose those guys is massive.
And Jimmy Clark was a good defender too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think Kareem Rozier can fill in. He's really tiny, but he can defend his ass off very fast, very quick. Dixon and I think Khalil Barr, I think the two of them can at least man the fort a little bit at the big guy position. And then I like the other two guys I have here. Jake DeMichael was like a walk-on. And he comes in, and I think he started in the tournament for them when they beat BYU.
Yeah.
Was a good three-point shooter and floor spacer. And then Jakob Netchus, the thing with this team was last year, which is they were so deep. They had so many guys that could play. You're leaving out.
I left the one Drame brother out.
You left the one Drame brother out, who before they were at Duquesne were at LaSalle, and I saw play quite a bit. But they were so deep last year. So these are some guys that probably could have played more. There was just so much talent and experience and depth on this team that they couldn't see the floor. But Jakob Netchus playing for his is it Croatia? He was playing in a FIBA tournament. He was lighting it up, I think, in the U19s or the U20s somewhere. And he's another guy that can stretch the floor a little bit. He's got nice size and floor spacing ability. So I like the returners that they have. I think they can take a bit more of a jump. And then you look at a Trey Dinkins, you look at a Maximus Edwards, you look at a Jashawn Corbett. Coming from and Corbett and Trey Dinkins' case, coming from small conferences, but I do think these are guys that can contribute scoring wise here to help. It'll have to be a scoring by committee thing because they don't have a Jimmy Clark or a Day Grant to rely on to get them buckets. But I like what Drew Joyce III has done. The returners are nice. It's a nice portal haul. I think they're behind Mason, but they're kind of right smack in the middle of this conference.
Right.
Where
The thing about Mason is they have that triangle, they have that trio that you can count on. Where, beside David Dixon and Rozier, and Edwards, Maximus Edwards, those three guys are going to start, but none of them are stars. So, all right, we'll move on to GW. And they lost the aforementioned Maximus Edwards and their point guard, James Bishop, who moved on to the pros, and he was an electric scorer. Though GW does now, remember, this is a team that finished last in this conference, and we're saying they're going to be in the middle of the pack. So, and the reason was we love Darren Buchanan, their wing, small forward, whatever you want to call him, who had a tremendous freshman season last year. And Garrett Johnson is a great scorer at the another forward spot. They bring in Rafael Castro, who was a former high recruit from Providence, who's a 7-footer. Trey Moss, a nice combo guard from William and Mary. Sean Hansen, a nice piece at forward from Cornell. And even Gerald Drumgoole, he probably is going to be a solid piece off the bench. So a lot of players you're familiar with from the CAA and Ivy and Big East there. So what do you think about GW? Do you agree with me? You think they're going to make the leap from last place to the middle of the pack?
No, I don't think this team will. Something you got to point out: Garrett Johnson tore his ACL in the summer. He's not going to play this year.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he tore it in July.
Ah.
So he's not going to play this year, and you lose a guy like James. I mean, James Bishop, like that guy could catch fire in a hurry.
Oh yeah.
And when you lose a guy like that who could, single-handedly bring you back into a game, break open a lead for you, and just a guy that scored that many freaking points at GW, it's a big loss. And then you look at, losing a young wing in Maximus Edwards who could score a little bit. They lose Babatunde Akingbola, who was their shot blocker.
Right.
And, Castro just didn't play a whole lot at Providence. So, with more playing time, you have to really bank on him being really effective here. However, Sean Hansen was a nice piece because he can, if you play at Cornell, you pretty much have to stretch the floor. You got to be able to shoot threes and space the floor. So with a guy like Castro who can't do that, that'll be a nice switch up there. And then Drumgoole is going to have to score here as well with so much with Garrett Johnson out, Maximus Edwards out, James Bishop out. You're going to need transfers and young guys to step in here and score a lot. I think Jacoy Hutchinson can have a nice step into what I believe is his second year. I think he's going into his sophomore year. I think he can take a nice step here, but no Garrett Johnson. You lose one of the best players in the history of the program. You lose a really good shot blocker. I am going to have them towards they're going to play that first day in the A10 tournament. They're going to be somewhere between 10 and 15 or 11 and 15, and they're going to play on day one.
Right. I didn't realize that about Garrett Johnson. I'm a fan of his game, the inside outside ability, the ability to shoot at his size. Didn't know he was hurt. That's a shame. All right, so we're going to move on to talk about Rhode Island. Rhode Island lost a lot of guys, but I don't know if there's anybody on that list that they're going to lose a lot of sleep over. They do bring back some wings and guards who can shoot. David Fuchs he's a former high recruit at Alabama. He had a really solid year for Rhode Island last year. And so and then they bring in guys like Jamarcus Lawrence from Nebraska, who can light it up quick when he gets in there. Sebastian Thomas returns. He played in the A10. Do you remember who he played in the A10 for? He played at Albany last year, but before that,
I think it was Rhode Island.
Yeah, I think he was with Rhode Island.
I think he boomeranged. Yeah, he boomeranged back.
So he had a huge year for Albany last year, and now he's back at Rhode Island. So what I like about this team is their ability to shoot and fill it up. Cam Estevez was a really efficient scoring backup last year. David Green can score, and I don't think he played the complete year last year because of injury. Jaden House is a good scorer. Fuchs is a good scorer. Lawrence, as I said, can light it up. And Sebastian Thomas is a good distributor. So a lot of good guard play here. No, there's no size. I mean, the best is transfer Javante Brown from Western Michigan, and I don't know if he's up to starter quality.
Rich, I got a hard time thinking this team's going to be any good. Like, they just seem like they haven't really been like cohesive in Archie Miller's first 2 years. And like I need to see like some cohesion, maybe some consistency on both sides of the ball here, because last year pretty good offensively, not very good defensively. 2 years ago,
I think that's what they're going to be this year too.
But they were not good. His first year there, they were horrific offensively, but defensively they could actually lock it down and like make it ugly and be all right. But some consistency, some cohesion, like I just like I think Rhode Island might have, I don't know, whiffed here and not made a great hire at the time, as good as I thought it was at the time with Archie Miller. I like, yeah, there's some scoring coming back, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this team for this year, Rich, and I don't know if I'm a fan of the Archie Miller hire. Like, I don't see this team being like significantly better than they were just a year ago. Like, I don't really see a way out for this team. I think they're going to play on that first day again, the tournament, the A10 tournament.
Yeah, I think they're definitely toward the bottom of the conference. I think 500 is probably wishful thinking. All right, we'll move on to Davidson, and they lost their point guard, who was kind of Mr. Do Everything for them, and that's Grant Huffman. He moves on to Vanderbilt. Also lost David Skogman to a power forward to DePaul, Angelo Brizzi, shooting guard to Longwood. They bring back a fair amount of guys. Connor Cochera is probably their best player coming back, but Reed Bailey's also a double-figure scorer. Sean Logan is a good shot blocker, but that's about the only thing he can do right now. They also bring in from the portal Joe Hurlbert from Colorado. He was a high recruit for the Buffaloes. And they also bring in Robert Blums, a player who played in the Spanish system. Let me look up Blums. Blums, this was a kind of a late signee, 6'2" guard out of Latvia. He's a shooting guard, though I've heard him described as a combo guard. But boy, if you look at his statistics, he doesn't seem to like to share. He played in the Estonian League and also some in the Basketball Champions League. So he also was in the French system for a while for Asvel. So this is a guy with some pro experience. He's a scorer. One thing I don't see on this team, on this Davidson team, who the hell is replacing Grant Huffman?
Yeah, they're going to need a point guard. Another guy, they're actually bringing a guy who's probably lives like 40 some minutes from me, Nick Koval from Parkland High School, who's coming to play. So, yeah, point guard's going to be a big question, because like you look at the rest of the team, and I don't think there's a ton of like this team's not going to out talent like many teams in this league, but like you have a shot blocker in Sean Logan. Connor Cochera is a nice scorer. Reed Bailey, Bobby Durkin can play the wing, stretch the floor a little bit. Like, it's all like the McKillop offense, you know what I mean? Like, they need a guy to like orchestrate all of that and play very slow on that end. I think that's going to hurt them a little bit. And who's to say that these guys won't grow into big players and have their moments this year? But there's no clear replacement for your point guard here, and you're ahead of the snake. And I think that's what holds Davidson back a little bit. I think they're going to be towards the bottom as well, even though there's like the bones here, I think, to be a pretty good team. You don't have that point guard.
Right.
You don't have that point guard. I think it's really going to hurt them. I
Yeah.
think they're a team that's down, and that there's another team I think's down the 10 to 15 range somewhere in there as well.
You know, what's interesting is this is one of the few teams in the conference that actually has 2 7-footers, you know, that can play, but yet their best player was last year was Grant Huffman by far, and there's no obvious replacement for him. It's just kind of odd. All right, we'll move on to UMass, and they lost their 2 best players. Jake Cohen, their center, moves on to USC. Matt Cross, versatile, could play shooting guard, small forward, power forward. He moves on to SMU, and also Keon Thompson was a nice piece for them at point guard. What's left is a lot of guards. Including Rashul Diggins, who once was a high recruit for Connecticut. They bring in Daniel Rivera from Bryant. He started at Colorado State. He's a wing. Akili Watson, who's never quite lived up to his billing, comes in from Arizona State. I really wasn't sure where to put UMass. I mean, they're obviously lacking some size here, though. Daniel Hankins Sanford, he's not a true center, but he does have a lot of shot blocking potential. Jalen Curry last year, he was I think he was a freshman last year. He was a high recruit. He didn't quite live up to his billing, but then again, he was behind Keon Thompson. Um, I, I don't know. I could see this team maybe being, toward the upper half, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they could be like maybe 9, maybe right in there. I think is where I have them, where they can like avoid like the lower third of the conference. But they are losing a lot, and like Matt Cross was a really good kind of glue guy, like energy guy that I think they're really gonna miss. They're gonna miss Josh Cohen being a beast inside and giving them a true big.
And
But I think
Cross can really shoot too.
Yeah, an energy guy, like just made winning plays and could stretch the floor. I think Matt Cross is going to be a really big loss for them as well. I have to wonder though, do you think part of this is because they're moving to the MAC? Do you think they're not getting high recruits and bringing in a bunch of transfers like they did the last offseason because of them moving to the MAC?
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it. I mean, the closest team to them in that conference is Buffalo.
It's like 400 miles away.
Yeah, and it's not that close. And Buffalo is really on the outer edge of the rest of that conference.
Yeah.
So they're going to be traveling constantly.
Yeah.
And there's no natural rivals, which some of these teams here with UMass have had natural rivals for years, since I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I could go on and on about that because it pissed me off so much, but I don't know how you're going to get a fan base excited for like Miami, Ohio, and Eastern Michigan to come to UMass, to Amherst and play. I don't think that's going to happen. And for a football team that is god awful, they threw it all away. They threw out. They're in the Atlantic 10, really good conference. Probably brings in a whole lot of media for them, and money. You lose that. I mean, this is a school where they made a Final Four with John Calipari, and it's where Julius Erving went to school.
Yep.
And they're going to be playing in the fucking MAC? It makes me so mad. But
I agree, Jake. I agree totally. They don't belong in the MAC. They belong in this conference, or at worst, I mean, they're not really up to snuff, but they used to be back in the day. They could have played in the Big East.
They're not going to be able to like get an at-large bid maybe ever again. They're going to have to win the MAC if they want to get in. Makes me so mad. But I'm basically, you ever see that Simpsons meme of the guy? It's like, it's a newspaper and it's like old man shakes his fist at the sky. Yeah, old maid yells at the clouds. That's me when talking about realignment. Like, I just got to accept that it's going to keep happening, and it's whatever.
But you bring up a great point. This conference is always a 2, 3, maybe even once in a while, I maybe a 4-bid conference. Can you remember where they got 4 bids?
Let's think here. I have to go back kind of. I can't, not at the top of my head now.
I bet you the MAC probably hasn't. I bet you the MAC probably hasn't had 2 bids since maybe the 80s or 90s.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I hate everything about the move. The football team at UMass stinks. They're not good. But because they want to play football on TV on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, excuse me, we're gonna make this move.
Yep, I hear you.
Damn shame.
All right, so here's a team that to me has a lot of depth, and that's LaSalle. But they're losing their dynamic backcourt of Jameer Brickus and Khalil Brantley. I mean, 2 double-figure scores, little guys for sure, but they both could fill it up. And Anwar Gill, to me, was a solid player for them as well. And they don't. I think Deshaun Shepard, their wing, is probably the best player returning. You would speak better to that. I'm not really crazy about what they're bringing in from the portal. They do have Deuce Jones coming in, number 181 in the composite rankings as a freshman. I'm not sure what to make of this LaSalle team, so I'm going to defer to the expert.
Yeah, I actually was at practice on Saturday for them, which is pretty cool. I went over to watch them play. Shout out to Mike Doyle, everyone that allowed that to happen for me. But they're losing 2 guys in Brickus and Brantley that made everything happen. Like your 2 engines that made the offense go, especially Jameer Brickus, are out. So coming in is Corey McKeithen from Ryder, Eric Acker from Long Island, and then Deuce, the freshman. And I think there's a lot to be excited about for LaSalle fans, and it sucks in the era of the portal NIL, or if Eric Acker or Deuce explodes, are they going to stay? Deuce has some family ties to LaSalle, so I believe he will stay. But with Eric Acker and Deuce Jones, like you have 2 scorers, 2 shot makers, 2 guys that are very, very quick and sudden with the ball in their hands that I think can one day grow into a Khalil Brantley Brickus type backcourt if they decide to stay, where they'll grow here. They'll have some growing pains with Fran Dunphy. They're young players. It's just, and they're going to have a lot of responsibility because those 2 guys brought the ball up. Like they had to do all the table setting. They didn't really have any other playmakers, so to speak, on this team except for those 2 guys. So there's a lot of responsibility with Corey McKeithen in there, who's a quick little guy from Ryder. Like there's a lot of quickness at the guard spot for them.
Right.
I think it's going to help them out. Guys that can score, get into the middle, get into the paint. But you look at what else they have here. Like Deshaun Shepard is a nuclear athlete. He's probably one of the best athletes in college basketball that people don't see often or talk about. Like they added some athleticism here. Jaleel White's a very good athlete from Temple. He's big, he's long, he can defend guards, he's a multi-positional defender. And then they bring in some other guys at this. They really got to shore up the center spot with Rokas Yotsus leaving. And those 2 guys are one Demetrius Lilly from Penn State and then Mac ETN from DePaul, who's also at UCLA. He was actually down to DePaul or LaSalle as his 2 spots a year ago. Went to DePaul, they were like the worst Power 6 team ever, and then he came to LaSalle. So the 2 of them have not played a bunch at the previous stops. Meech Lilly at Penn State, and then Mac ETN at DePaul and UCLA. Mac, I think, looks a little slimmer, a little bouncier, a little quicker. Looks like he definitely lost some weight. And then Meech Lilly's a big guy inside.
He's a monster. He's a monster.
He's a big guy. He played at Lower Merion. He averaged a double-double sophomore, junior, senior year while he was there. Only player to do that since Kobe Bryant.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, how about that? So, I mean, he's not a crazy, like, vertical athlete, but what I will say is, like, watch him practice, like, that staff has full confidence in Meech to have the green light and shoot the ball from the three-point line. That's something that Rokas did last year was space the floor a little bit, not something that Mac can necessarily do. So Meech Lilly's going to have to do that. I think he'll actually do it pretty well. He's certainly going to have opportunities to do it. So they're going to look a lot different. I think there'll be some growing pains with the guards here. I think they'll be in the bottom 5. But here's what I will say. Fran Dunphy won't let this team finish last. Everybody, ever since he got there, they predicted him 15th. It's never happened. They won't be number 15.
I think they're going to be closer to the middle of the pack than they are. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't see them finishing last either.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why, because I got 3 teams on my list that I think are worse.
Wow.
And that starts with last year's top seed in the tournament, Richmond. They lose co-player of the year, Jordan King. They lose to the pros. They lose Neil Quinn, their star center, 7-footer, to the pros. They lose, is it Jai?
Yeah,
Jai Bailey? Jai
Bailey.
Bailey moves on to LSU. He was a very good player for them last year. Isaiah Bigelow was a solid player for them. He moves on to the pros. And they're really not, they don't have a lot left over. And the people that they're bringing in, the one bright spot to me, potential real bright spot is George Washington III, who's coming over from Michigan. He was a high recruit shooting guard. But even if he turns out to be a stud, I just don't see this team has enough to be competitive.
I don't think they're going to finish at the bottom. I think this is a team that's more middle of the pack. And here's why, because I really, really, really trust Chris Mooney. Remember a couple years ago, they made the tournament, they beat Iowa, and people were making fucking billboards in Richmond because they wanted this guy fired. And all he does is gets them that win over Iowa, who beat Keegan Murray, by the way, in the tournament. And then he got them, they had like a banner year in the program. So, like I trust him, but here's the thing, Rich. And not only is like losing Neil Quinn so big defensively because you have such a monstrous big guy there in the middle, but offensively, this guy was so skilled and he ran the Princeton offense so much. And I think that's what the Achilles heel is like Mike Wallace is going to have to be the guy that steps in to run the offense, like do the center position, because with all the cutting and all the action that goes on there, Neil Quinn was so good at throwing bounce passes and backdoors to guys. And not only like watching them at the A10 tournament against St. Joe's, like your bigs have to play off of Neil Quinn a little bit, who could hit a hook shot, who could back you down because he was so big. And it's like you had to play off of him a little bit to try and clog passing lanes, but also like help off a little bit to defend cutters coming into like offensively. Like Neil Quinn did so much good and was so instrumental.
A lot like Krautwig did for Loyola-Chicago a few years ago.
Like, yeah, they're going to lose Jordan King and Bigelow and Bailey, but that Neil Quinn loss is so massive for these guys. And I liked some of the pieces they brought in. I think George Washington could be good. Dusan Neskovich put up numbers in the Ivy League, albeit for a really bad team in Dartmouth. But like Mike Wall is going to have to be the guy that steps in, but he's not going to be able to fill the shoes of Neil Quinn. They're going to tumble a little bit with all the losses they have. I think they'll still be middle of the pack, though.
No, you're optimistic. You're optimistic. No, I'm. It's really tough when you get down to the middle, and there's not a lot necessarily separating these teams. So, and the standings usually reflect that, where they're usually all bunched together. Next up is Fordham. They lose their best player and one of the better defenders in the league, and Kyle Rose, shooting guard. He moves on to graduation. They do bring back Abdu Simbila, probably one of the better big men returning to this conference. They also have a couple solid players, and Will Richardson, shooting guard, Roman Dean, a forward. Not a lot coming in the portal. I mean, let's put it this way. I guess I could sum Fordham up by saying this. If you know anything about Notre Dame basketball, and I watch Notre Dame basketball very loyally, Matt Zona is most likely going to start for this team. And that's not a good thing for any basketball team if Matt Zona is starting for you.
Oh, God. Damn.
So there you go. What do you think about Fordham?
Yeah, I think this could be a bottom four team, Rich. Good amount on the way out. Elijah Gray, Temple now. Pretty cool. But man, there's some scoring, some like positional versatility on the way out here, and I just don't know what their NIL situation is to be bringing guys in. Like I don't think they did much here in the portal to be able to supplement the guys leaving. So Keith Ergo, his first year, they were good. It was fun. They made a good run in the A10 tournament, but I like this. This is a tough job, and I don't know if that's necessarily like repeatable. To be honest with you, they're not going to be very good this year. Bottom line, not high on this team at all.
Here's the good news. Fordham is a nice academic institution.
Great spot till New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. The last team, and boy, oh boy, has this team been gutted. And that's the St. Bonaventure, the Bonnies. I guess they were finished about they were kind of toward the bottom middle last year.
Yeah, I thought they were going to win the league. I thought they just never gelled.
Well, look at the talent that they've lost. I mean, that's a lot of good players there.
Yeah.
Charlie Pride, probably the best. Chad Venning, moving on to Boston College, big center. Mike Adams Woods, really dynamic point guard. Jan Farrell moves on to East Carolina. Darryl Banks graduated. Moses Flowers graduated. Barry Evans moved on to Bryant. Those are a lot of good players. And subsequently, you lose 7 good players like that. What's left is basically Noel Brown and Miles Rose. Brown is center, Rose is shooting guard, neither of whom really contributed much last year. The portal, they have a couple of nice players in Chance Moore from Missouri State. He's a nice defender. DeSante Bowen is a nice playmaker. He comes in from Iowa. I mean, those are 2 legit starters, but I don't see anything else.
Yeah, there's not a whole they're losing a lot, but I'm going to trust Mark Schmidt here. Just when you think they're done, I think Mark Schmidt's actually going to get it, like make him competitive here. I mean, 2 years ago, he has to rebuild an entire starting 5 from that Iron Man 5 that played every minute of every game.
Right.
And they were still like pretty competitive.
Yes, they were.
So another guy who I think is one of the best coaches in the country. I think he's on a Chris Mooney level where like I can like the two of them, like I trust them kind of with whatever they have here. Like I think they will still be competitive, and I don't think this is is this your last place team? Is that why you have them here?
I do.
I don't think they're not last place to me. I think they'll maybe like they could I don't know, 9 to 12, 13 range somewhere in there, but they're not my bottom feeder. Okay. I trust Mark Schmidt too much. Whatever he can get out of him, he'll get out of him, and I'll make him competitive.
And they also have a great fan base, loyal fan base.
They got Woj.
Right. Well, they brought in Woj because the cupboard is certainly bare right now.
Yeah. Woj will be good down the road. They'll be good down the road.
And by the way, this is a trend you're going to see in all college basketball of GMs being signed, and actually it's probably going to open up a whole new line of jobs too for people like myself who are talent evaluators, or Jake too. Who they're going to need people to evaluate players on a constant basis now. Woj can't do it alone. So they're going to need a staff. So talent evaluators, your jobs are coming thanks to NIL. Yeah. So let's make our A10 predictions. Who is your champ?
VCU. I'll go with the Rams.
And I, too, am going with VCU after I initially chose Dayton. How many other bids does the A10 get?
I'm going to just say 2 because I think anything over that's maybe a little overzealous just because of like the history last couple years. So I'll go with my champ VCU, and then...
Oh, you're saying total they'll only get 2, so you only think there's going to be one other team. Okay.
Yeah, I just think it's overzealous of me to be like, oh, well, they're going to get 3. Like, it's been a little bit since that happened. So I'm going to say VCU and then one of the other, like, top 4 teams, Dayton, Loyola-Chicago, St. Joe's, St. Louis. I think 2 of those 5 one of those 4, because I think VCU will win the automatic bid.
Right.
Dayton, Loyola, St. Joe's, St. Louis, one of those 4, I think, gets you a second bid.
Okay. Gotcha. Who is your MVP?
Eric Reynolds a second. I almost had it last year. If Deron Holmes didn't exist, I would have been right.
Right.
But I'm going to take Eric Reynolds this year.
I hear you. I am going with our guest, Max Shulga of Virginia Commonwealth. I love Eric. I love its game. I hope St. Joe's makes the tournament this year. Yeah. Who's your defensive player of the year? Couple of good choices here in this conference.
Yeah, there's a couple. How about Miles Rubin?
Right. That's one of the ones that was one of my choices. Is that who you?
I'll go Miles Rubin.
All right. I went with Posh Alexander. For those of you who might remember, he won Big East Defensive Player of the Year in 2021. So when he was with St. John's, I like Posh. I think Dayton's going to be toward the top. I thought about Rubin, and I tell you what, if Rubin plays 25 minutes a game, he'll probably walk away with the award. But if he doesn't play, if he's still only playing like 17, 18 minutes a game, then maybe not. All right. Newcomer of the year. I think this is pretty much a slam dunk. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hate fun if you're rooting for anything else. It's Robbie Avila.
I agree. Robbie Avila, the center for St. Louis. We both agree. So not much difference there, a little bit, but I forgot to say, I think the A10's getting 3 total bids this year. I like VCU to win, Dayton to get the other. I'm pretty confident about them. And then I think it comes down to Loyola, St. Joe's, and St. Louis for that 3rd bid. I just feel that the quality is here in this conference at the top for them to get 3 bids. We shall see. And you could root for any of those teams. You could root for Loyola to get back there. You could root for Robbie Avila, who was kind of robbed of his chance last year to get in there. And of course, St. Joe's, us being Philly guys, will always root for the Hawks. All right, Jake. So we're gonna do the AAC soon. But in the meantime, what we're going to do before we wrap up the A10 totally, we're going to roll that interview I did earlier today with my pick for player of the year in the A10, Max Shulga. Our special guest today is VCU senior guard Max Shulga, a first-team All-A10 selection last season. Max averaged 14 points, 4.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists per game with outstanding shooting splits of 45% from the floor, 42 from deep, 88 from the free throw line. He finished in the top 5 of the Atlantic 10 for true shooting percentage, free throw percentage, three-pointers made, offensive rating, win shares, and plus minus. So I'm going to try this. Привет. Привет. Is that how you say hello?
Oh, yeah. Привет. Yeah. I didn't hear it at first. I was like, what?
So, welcome to the show, Max. How you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. You're one of my favorite athletes in the entire world.
Really?
Is named Max. And I was curious, since you're European, he's European. And he is Max Verstappen, the F1 driver.
Oh yeah. I've heard of him.
Do you follow F1 at all?
No, I don't follow the F1, but I've definitely heard of him, like Lewis Hamilton. I've heard of him.
Right. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champ. Yep. So how was your summer break?
It was great. I after a long season, it was great to have. It was great to have a little summer break. Time to get healthy, time to get better. So yeah, now that we're right back into, we have a month to go in the off season before the season starts. So it's been great. We've been practicing every day, competing, and just getting better, getting prepared.
Right. Did you get to do anything fun, like any vacations or anything, or just kind of chill time?
Yeah, I went back over to Europe for like 10 days. I went to Italy and saw some of my family over there. I saw my mom, my sister, and 2 of my cousins. So spent some time with them. But that's about it. Other than that, I've been out here in Richmond.
That was going to be one of my questions. With the war going on, I wondered how often you got to see your family, if you get to talk to them regularly.
Yeah, No, that's probably, well, I can't say my dad at all because he can't leave the country because the law, because the rules. But yeah, I can see my mom and my sister whenever I want, really. But it just ends up being just one time, once a year, because I'm busy with the school year and like season and all that stuff, and they're busy with what they're doing. So
Right.
once a year probably is what I usually get.
Right. But it's nice you got to go over to Europe for at least a while.
Yeah,
Is your father in Kiev?
yeah. My dad is in Kiev. Yep.
Okay. Do you get to Zoom with him?
Oh yeah, we FaceTime like once a week. Talk
Okay.
about everything. So yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So, I don't know if you want to comment on it, but you're the first guest we've ever had from the Ukraine. So, is there anything you want to say about the situation at home?
I mean, obviously, it's terrible what's going on back home. So I always uh keep the people from my country, or like especially my family, like in my prayers. I know what they're like, the stress that they go through every single day, just managing the everyday living, and like still providing for their families, and trying to make a living while like all that stuff is going on. Like I can't even imagine how hard that is. So yeah, I always think about them in the back of my mind and keep them in my prayers. And yeah, just hope it ends as soon as possible, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of incredible. I'm, of course, old enough to be your father. It's just kind of incredible to me in 2024, we still have situations like this.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. It is unbelievable. And with Ukraine, I know there's also stuff going on in like Israel, in the Middle East.
Yep.
Like it's honestly insane. It's unbelievable that it's still in 2024 we're doing this kind of stuff. I thought that was in the past. Everyone
Right.
grew out of it, but I guess
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah.
It really did. I mean, I'd say, probably in the late 80s to early 90s, it looked like this kind of stuff was going to stop. But,
Yeah.
some people,
Yeah, I guess we're still doing this. Crazy.
humans.
Yeah. Wow.
So could you describe your journey, kind of like how did your basketball career start? And then you went to Utah State for 3 years, and then now you're at VCU for 1 year last year. So how did you get to the United States, and how has your career just kind of gone over that time?
I got to the United States. I got scouted by Craig Smith coaching staff, Coach Smith's coaching staff, while
Right.
being at FIBA under
Hmm.
18
Yep.
championship. Yeah, so I played for Ukraine, and I kind of got contacted by Coach Peterson, who was their assistant coach at the time. Um, yeah, so he gave me, that was really how I got to Utah State. I really had like probably like 3 to 4 offers coming out of high school. Yeah, and then that was the year that COVID hit as well.
Right.
So a bunch of those schools pulled their scholarships because they were just like indecisive with how it was going to work with the international players and stuff like that. But then last second, Utah State, they decided to follow through with the offer, and yeah, I committed on, yeah, it was like end of May of 2020. Yeah, I committed to Utah State without really knowing what it's gonna bring, without really any expectation. I knew I wanted to be in college basketball, and wanted to make my way through here. So yeah, that's how it really happened.
Okay. I noticed in 2022, playing for the under 20 national team, you just knocked it out of the park. I think you averaged over 18 points per game and just stuffed the stat sheet. Do you plan to continue to play for the national team? I don't even, is the national team still competing, at the various levels?
Yeah, they do compete, and I definitely plan on playing there. I've been called to go to play with them already, like the last 2 years, really, but it just wasn't working with. I either didn't have a active visa, or they just didn't work out with the schedule of our practices and all that type of stuff. But if the times like connect and everything works out, I'll take the opportunity, the next opportunity that comes to play for Ukraine. Yeah.
Okay. You tested the NBA waters in the spring,
Yeah.
and surprisingly, at least to me, you didn't get a call up to at least the G League combine.
Yeah.
So what was that process like? Did you get to talk or work out for any teams? And is there anything you took away that you learned from it? Like, did you get feedback?
Yeah. No, I did. I worked out for the Spurs. That was the only team that I worked out for, and then it was like May 2nd, May 3rd, something like that. And then after that workout, so pretty much I had like a little lingering injury that I had through like from the season, and which I ended up just thinking that like I'm gonna do this workout and see how it goes, and like it like got worse, I would say, a little bit. So I just decided that I know I can do better in college still. I'm gonna go through this workout, see how I do, and see what they say. But just knowing in the back of my mind that I'm gonna just take care of this injury and just put my mind 100% towards the last season to make it the best one. Because I know there's a lot for me to improve on, and they told me some things to work on. David Tillip, he told me I think he's their head scout, his first scout. So he talked to me about the things that that he sees that I need to improve on. So it was definitely good to hear from them, and just even though it was just one workout, it was still good to see how they do it and what to expect after this year. Yeah.
Not surprising they called you up because they always had favored international players. They've always tried to. I think they more so than most NBA teams kind of mimic that style, that European style of play. So, is there anything in particular that you took from that and worked on in the off season?
Yeah. Well, conditioning was one of the things that I think I had a big I had to make a big improvement in to be able to run the offense and then guard on the other end, or full court press, and do that over the not like over the course of 2 possessions, but over the course of the whole game. Because in the NBA it's a whole different type of physicality and speed.
Right.
So like if I can't do it in college, I wouldn't be able to do it in the NBA. So that was the big thing that he told me to do, to work on. I would say my conditioning, and then just being more aggressive, in like at all. Try to be more aggressive at all times. I've had games where I kind of just where like the teams would just play would just like deny me, for example, and I would be like, all right, like I would just kind of give into it and just play for the team more, just cut and do screens and just kind of stay out the way and just let my teammates work, just having that at least that one guy that's just face guarding me, for example, just get him out the way. But yeah, just still being aggressive and still just finding a way, regardless of what defense is being played on me. Still finding ways to be aggressive and just force my will onto the defense and just make stuff happen, and just be more consistent at everything, just playmaking, shooting, less turnovers, all that type of stuff.
Right. Bear with me a second here.
Yeah.
I had to scroll down. So you're somewhat of a stat sheet stuffer, in terms of being able to, put stats up in a lot of different categories. For example, I just got done watching you play against St. Joe's in March.
Yeah.
You were almost perfect in that game. 10 of 11.
That was crazy.
2 of 2 from the free throw line, and I believe I forget how many rebounds. I know you had a handful of assists. It was quite the game. But anyway, what aspect of the game do you enjoy the most?
Enjoy the most. I would say the playmaking part. You know, just whether when in situations when there's like nothing going on, just making a play, making a great pass, just making the right basketball play. Whether it's creating a shot for myself, knocking it down, or just creating a play for my teammates. You know, just make something happen out of nothing. I think that's my favorite part. I would say just the playmaking part.
Right. All due respect to football, and I mean soccer. All due respect. When basketball is played the right way and people are passing the right way, basketball is the beautiful game.
It's the most beautiful sport. It's the
Right.
best in the world. Yeah.
So, you know, last year the Rams. Well, actually, I'm going to give you a little history. You may or may not know this. The Rams made the NCAA tournament for 7 straight years between 2011 and 2017. Since then, they've been there every other year. Last season, your team tied for 4th in the A10 and didn't make March Madness, which means you're due to make it this year. But, you know, the talent to me was there.
Mm-hmm.
So was there a feeling that the team had underachieved?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You know, more. You know, getting to the tournament was our goal. Our goal for the season, and being the A10 champs was our goal for the season. And we didn't achieve either, even though we were right there. You know, we were right there for doing both. It was just a season of a lot of ups and downs. So I'm proud. We were definitely proud of how we've done, especially for it being first year that Coach Odom was here, and it was a group of everyone was new pretty much except for like three guys. So we definitely were proud of how we handled the ups and downs of the season and what we were able to achieve at the end. But we knew that we didn't achieve our ultimate goal. So this offseason it's been way more intense, and we're coming to practice with way more intent and more competitiveness, knowing that how close we were last year, and knowing that we don't want to experience that again.
Right. You know, another big positive. I mean, having that intensity obviously is key, but the core of the roster really returns. You know, and I personally believe you have an excellent shot of winning the regular season title. What happens in the conference tourney? Who knows? Because they're always crazy. But I think you're going to get the regular season title. In the off season, though, you lost the athletic Toby Lawal, and you lost the versatile Sean Bairstow, who's now playing in Australia. But you did add Jack Clark from Clemson, Philip Russell from UT Arlington, plus a couple of highly ranked freshmen. With all that said, how do you think this year's squad compares to last year's?
I think we're a lot more used to each other. You know, used to just playing with each other, and everyone is used to the coaching style that Coach Odom has. Because I think it was a big transition even for them, for everyone else, to just going from Coach Rhodes, who was like a very defense oriented coach. Like your whole game plan is based on defense and pressing and trapping and like causing steals and stuff like that.
Right.
Going to Coach Odom, who is who's more on the offensive end. You know, he's more of an offensive mastermind, but we also pay a lot of attention to defense as well. So it was just a transition that all the guys had to make coming into last year, and this year I think everyone already knows what to expect from each other. Everyone is just used to each other, used to the coaching, and adding Phil and Jack was big for us because they're both super seniors, you know, both very experienced players. both been through a lot in their careers, and both bring a lot of versatility to and intensity to our team. And yeah, about the freshmen, we got super talented freshmen, and there is a chance they could help us, make an impact this year as well.
Right. How about personally your role? First of all, you can't watch a VCU game from last year without noticing the chemistry between you and Sean. I maybe that's just in my mind, but it seems like you two played really well off each other, and he almost served as a point forward. I mean, so many guys on your team are good passers. You, Zeb, and Sean was. So you're not going to have Sean this year. Do you expect to play off of? Do you expect your role is going to be different? And if how so?
I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have the same role. We have a lot of guys that can handle the ball. Jack, even though he's a 4 technically or like a 3, but he can really play 1 through 5. Really, if he wanted to, he can play out of a pick and roll. He can play make. Phil he can handle the ball. Zeb, Joe, me. So we have Terrence Hill, Brendan Jennings. Like we have a lot of guys on the team that can handle the ball and can make plays happen. It's just about I think it's just about just learning and just maximizing the potential that we have together, and just not overplaying and just not being selfish and playing as a group, knowing how much talent we have, and just playing for each other.
In terms of, I know you I know you probably don't want to hear this, or maybe you do. I don't know. Some people react differently, but I think you're going to be player of the year in the conference, assuming you stay healthy. Have you heard much talk about that, and have you thought about it at all?
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard different people mention it. Yeah, I don't really. That's not really like it would definitely be cool to achieve something like that. It would be grateful to achieve something like that, but it's not really one of my main goals. If it happens in the process of us playing and winning games and winning the championship and just going through the journey together, if it happens in the end, that would be great. But it's not necessarily my main goal that's in the front of my mind going into the season. I just really like to take it day by day, just get better day by day, focus on the process, and just see where it takes me.
Alrighty. Last question. Could you share something with us that most people, except for maybe your close inner circle, know about you? Something could be an interest of yours, a hobby, or anything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I actually picked up a new hobby this summer. I started golfing. This summer. Yeah, so I've been golfing for like 2 months now, something like that, 2-3 months. So that's definitely a hobby that I'm very interested in. Yeah, but we're going into the season now, so we might need to delay it until the season is done, until the next summer or like April. Don't know. Yeah, I'm a big golfer now.
Good. Golf used to be, as I got older, like in my mid-20s, that was the sport. That was my sport. And I had to quit because of a spinal issue, but I just recently got operated on. And so I'm going to be back out there swinging away. So, and you'd be surprised how many guards, it's usually guards and usually point guards, that tell me they're into golf. It's a great game.
It's a great sport.
It is indeed. Well, Max, it was a pleasure talking with you today, and I wish you and the team the best. I really think the A10 really looks like it's going to be competitive, but I think you're going to be right there at the top.
Yes, sir.
But I wish you and the team the best, and please come back and visit us when you're going through the draft process.
I got you.
I think you're definitely going to Pitt Portsmouth, and
Uh-huh.
you're probably going to get a combine invite from there. So
Yep.
it'd be great to talk to you when you're going through that.
Yes, sir. We'll do that. We'll do that for sure.
All right, Max. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Our second special guest today is George Washington forward Darren Buchanan Jr. A member of the All-A10 Freshman Team last season, Darren averaged 15.6 points, 6.6 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 1.3 steals per game while shooting 55% from the floor. He topped the conference in field goal percentage, ranked third in effective field goal percentage, and ranked fourth with a player efficiency rating of 22.6. Not bad for a freshman. Darren, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? I'm good.
I am good. I've been waiting for this interview for a few days. We had to move it several
Yeah, I know.
but that's all cool. So the A10's media day was held yesterday in DC. Did you attend?
Yes, I did. I did.
Cool. So how was that?
It was good. It was good. Got to spend some time with Coach Caputo. Great guy. I love being around him. And then just answering a bunch of different questions about this upcoming season, like our goals and aspirations. So it was a good day. Good day. It was pretty long, but it was good. So
Right. So what was the dumbest question you were asked?
dumbest question. I wasn't ask no crazy questions.
So no one
I'll
asked you.
say
No one
it was
asked you
fairly
like.
even.
See, I would do something like ask you like, "What's your father's name?"
Nah, they didn't ask me nothing like that. One person was asking me like who would I have at my Thanksgiving table, like dead or alive. That was a good little question.
Well, yeah, that's I've never heard a question put that way before. Who'd you pick?
I said Snoop Dogg,
Okay.
Kevin Hart, and Wallow or Gilly.
Okay. All right. So a
So
musician, a comedian, and another musician slash Snoop's everywhere these days. So.
yeah, exactly.
All right. So I believe you have lived in the DC, Virginia area your entire life, correct?
Yeah, DC. Yup.
Okay. And so are you a Washington Commanders fan?
Yes.
All
I
right.
am. This year I am a Commanders fan. We
So
off to a good start.
yeah, I mean it's been amazing. So I just had a guy from the Philly area who I get somehow became a Washington fan. Yaxel Lendenberg, he plays in the ACC for UAB or the AAC, I should say. He plays for
Yeah.
Alabama Birmingham. Anyway, he told me the Commanders were his favorite team, and I thought he was going to say the Eagles. So just curious. All right. So you started your college career in Blacksburg at Virginia Tech. You redshirted there before transferring to GW. What attracted you to GW?
Just Coach Caputo. I had a lot of like talks with him when I entered the transfer portal. His transparency was what stood out to me the most. He was real upfront and honest with me, and he just told me from day one that I had a chance to come make an impact here. And I also wanted to be closer to home.
Right.
And George Washington's 15 minutes from home, and that was exactly what I was looking for. So when I kept furthering my conversations with Coach Caputo, building a good relationship with him, it became a no-brainer for me. Like I wanted to be back home, and George Washington was the place to be. So I kind of held my commitment from him for like a month. Like I knew I was going there for like a month, and I never told him until I came to visit in like April, and I was just like, yeah, like I'm all in. So that's pretty much what led to my decision to come back home to George Washington.
Okay. And I'm sure you were very pleased with your performance last season. Maybe even you surprised yourself, maybe not. Did you surprise yourself, and what were you most pleased with?
I definitely did surprise myself. Because I was coming in just trying to find my footing. You know, it's my first year playing. I was just trying to establish myself and like my identity of a college basketball player, and I was able to do that pretty early. And once I did, it was more so just like, all right, I did it, but now I got to be more consistent with it. So that was like it was a big surprise for me, but as the season went on, I just started to embrace it even more.
And what were you? So what aspect of your game? I mean, were you just really pleased with? You're like, I'm so happy I did that.
I'll say like just my ability to score the ball. Like I always knew that I could score, but as the season went on and it like something started to become a lot more easier for me that I struggled with like earlier in my career, and I was just like, wow, like the work is showing, and that made me pretty happy. But it was more so me not just getting like satisfied with the results and just knowing there's way more work to be done. So
Right, right. As a high school senior, you were the DC Gatorade Player of the Year.
yeah.
Um, Despite that, you weren't an overly touted recruit and you didn't get a chance to play at Virginia Tech. Do those things to this day still give you a little extra motivation?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely not playing my first year at Virginia Tech. Like I think about it all the time. But honestly, I tell people all the time, like me not playing that year was the best thing I could have done. It helped me learn the game, like at the ACC level. Learning behind Justin Mutz, who was a great college player at Virginia
Yeah,
Tech, and like I really was able to just sit back and like detail my game, just figure out my way, and it was something that I needed. Like I went in down there thinking like all that DC Gatorade stuff, like I was gonna play, and I feel like I should have played, but just me taking a step back and realizing like, all right, take this year to mature, get stronger, learn the game, work on your game. So when it comes time next year, it's no doubt that like you're gonna be ready to play. And like I'm so blessed and thankful to have done that. And I think without that, I wouldn't be in a position I'm in today for sure.
right. I know Justin. He was on the show his senior year. So
Yeah, I love Justin. I love Justin.
you guys similar size?
Yeah, he was my first couple weeks down there though. He was giving me the blues for sure.
He's
So
a physical, defensive oriented
yeah,
player.
Justin, and then his passing ability, like he was really good, and I
Yeah.
learned a lot from him. I definitely learned a lot from him.
And you can see that in your game too. I mean, Virginia Tech tends to run, an offense that emphasizes a lot of cutting, and your offense emphasizes a lot of cutting. So I can see you as a cutter and a passer finding the cuts on the
Yeah,
back door, and you average almost 3 assists per game. As a really, you were the power forward on your team for the most part. Wouldn't you say?
yeah, yeah. It was good. Like our offense last year was pretty unique. We ran a lot of like misdirection things that allowed me to get downhill and to just play make. And I just had teammates around me who made shots and made the right plays. And I think we'll definitely have more of that this year with the guys we brought in and returned back. So.
Right. So over summer break, is there any particular thing that you worked on, that you focused on? You said, I really want to improve in this area. I really want to improve in this area.
I really improved on everything, but I'll say the two main things that really like I keyed in a lot on this summer was my shooting ability. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in order to help my team and even to help myself, I got to be able to shoot the three at a more consistent rate. And I think I did a great job with that. I've been shooting the ball pretty well in practice and things of that nature. And then the second thing, I'll just say getting in better shape. I feel like for me to be the type of player I am, my motor got to be high. And me just getting in shape, getting in better shape. Like we do conditioning here. It's crazy. We do conditioning, and as we're running up and down the court, I'm screaming at Coach Caputo like I'm playing 40 minutes this year. Like I'm playing 40 because that's just the mindset that I have. So definitely just getting in shape and becoming a more consistent shooter while still tightening up all the things that I'm really good at as well.
I gotta ask you something. Usually I don't look at this stuff unless I'm writing a scouting report on a player, but I just happened to notice on Synergy, they said you heavily favored driving right, and you were better driving right. Then I go on Instat, which is very similar to Synergy. It's owned by the Huddle company, and they say you drive right and left about equally, but you're better going left.
Yeah,
So I figured I'd just ask the person himself. Because I've seen you guys. Like when they ice you on the left side of the court, or no, excuse me, on the right side of the court. You seem to have no problem. You're like, fine. You don't want me to go to the middle. I'll just go around you on the outside. So, do you have a preference, or where do you think you're more efficient, going right or left?
Honestly, I don't have a preference. Like I'm comfortable with either one, but I definitely prefer my right because that's like my dominant hand. But like when, like you said, in situations where teams give me the left, I'm like, okay, like I can play, like I can go this way, like I can play this way. So it's really like just how they guard me. I just take what the defense give me. Like I never try to force anything, and
Right.
I think that's why I've been getting better at just taking what the defense give me. But I really don't have a preference though. Like I honestly like finishing with my left a little more. I think it just makes me feel better than finishing with my left. So
Right. And I noticed around the basket you were over 50% with your left hand. So always great to be able to finish with either hand. So despite your efforts last year, the team didn't have a lot of success as a team. And then you lose 3-time All-A10 point guard James Bishop. He's moved on to the pros. And to make matters worse, in the summer, Garrett Johnson suffers a season-ending knee injury. So I suspect you'll be okay with Sean Hansen filling in for Garrett. But what's the plan to make up for the production that James, had? Because he was your leading scorer, your leading assist man.
I think with the guys that we brought in, like you mentioned, Sean Hansen, he's a playmaking big. Like he can play make out of the five, and he can shoot the ball as well. So that opens the floor up. I think that gives us a lot more spacing than we had last year. So and then we brought in Rafael Castro from Providence, who's a true like lob threat and a versatile defender. And then as far as guards, we brought in Gerald Drumgoole from Delaware. He's very creative. He can like make his own shot. He can like play make, get his teammates involved. And then we brought in Trey Moss from William & Mary, who's like a real dynamic guard. Like he's super athletic, gets downhill, and has been shooting the three really well in practice. So and then with the guys we brought back, like JaCoy Hudson, I think he's gonna have a great year for us. Like I'm high on JaCoy. Christian Jones, he redshirted last year. I think he's gonna shock a lot of people. So it's really just more so just putting all the things that we got this year together to try to make up for the losses that we had. And it's hard to replace a guy like Garrett Johnson, all rookie player, all conference player this year if he was playing for sure. So it's kind of hard when you lose like one of the best players in the league.
Right.
And I think now as a team, we're figuring it out now for sure. Like everyone's starting to step up into the role. So it's definitely been a challenge, but it's something that we're getting through, and I like where we're headed at for sure.
Okay. In terms of your role, with Castro, he's a true 7-footer. As you said, Hansen could play the 5, could play the 4. So is your role going to be, I mean, you were pretty much, I'd say, a 4 last year. So are you going to be able to slide down to the 3, or has that been discussed?
It has. Like honestly, I've been pretty much everywhere, still playing some 5, 4, 3. Times where I'm bringing the ball up the court as the 1. So just finding ways where I can just impact the game, like regardless of who's in the game. We could probably go a big lineup with me, Sean, and Rafael in the game at the same time. So just figuring out lineups and things like that, and just getting in where I fit in. Honestly, like I feel like I could play anywhere on the floor. And I think my role this year is just to do what I did last year by a higher level, and to just lead the team. I think the team will look for me to be the vocal leader on the court, and I'm just ready and eager to step into that role.
Right. I got to ask, Garrett has been through a lot. I mean, he had that rare tumor that required chemotherapy. I guess that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it looked like he was going to be able to put in, he's never had a full season yet, and looked like this year was going to be the year. And then he suffers that injury, I guess it was late June. I feel so bad for him. How's he doing? How is he keeping his spirits up?
Yeah, me and Garrett's actually roommates. I was literally just sitting with him like 15 minutes before I got
Oh,
here.
nice.
So just like being around him, like you can tell he's a true warrior. Like I tell him every day, like he inspired me every day to just keep going. Like no matter what I'm going through, I always look at him just like, man, like just look at him like he's still going. Like he's up at 6:30, getting his rehab, and like he's attacking like he's playing this year. And that's what I love about him. Like I tell him like I love him like he's my brother. Like we always talking about how the season would be if we had him and things like that. So he like his spirits is high. He's pushing. He's working hard every day. And he's just a true inspiration to us all. But definitely to me, like I can say I look up to Garrett Johnson. Like he's someone that I can like model myself after. Like the way his approach to everything, like everything. The day he tore his ACL, like I was talking to him, he was hurt. But just talking to him and being around him, you could tell that like it wasn't gonna stop him. Like a week later after his surgery, he was back in the gym watching his practice, like eager to get on the court and start his rehab. So like he's definitely someone I'm super proud of. And like I feel bad for him that he's not gonna be able to play, but I definitely don't like see him falling off or anything. Like when he comes back, he's gonna be that same Garrett Johnson for sure.
Right. And for the fans who don't know, Garrett's about 6'8", and
6'8" and can do pretty much everything.
And he's a sweet shooter, and
Yeah.
so, but is there any in his mind, I'm sure the doctors are saying no way, but in his mind, does he think there's a outside chance he might be able to get back by the end of March?
I told him the other day, I said I would love to have you this year. But I mean, it's no rush. Like I want him to get 100% healthy for sure. Like I want him to feel good and be able to play. But if the opportunity presents itself, I wouldn't see him turning it down. I couldn't see him turning it down.
Right. So given, what happened last year and the challenges you face this year, what gives you confidence? And I think you touched on it already, but what really, when you get up in the morning, what gives you confidence to say we can compete for an A10 title this year?
I think just my teammates. I think this year's team we got a team that's like can do some special things. Like far as defense, we're very versatile. And the same with offense. So just like that's what like gives me confidence. And then I'll just say like my will to win. Like last year, I think about last year all the time. Like it's something that like I won't say I dwell on, but I look back at like every day and just be like, we ain't gonna have that same feeling this year. Like I tell my teammates that every day, like I'd be damned if we had this type of season we had last year. Like we all been through college basketball, like we know what it takes. And I just think far as for me, my self-confidence, it's just I hate to lose. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. And I tell my teammates every day, and we all got the same approach. Like we all believe that we can compete for an A10 championship. And I think that's what's kind of motivates us all. So
Right. Good. That's a great attitude. And I don't think, that there is one particular team that really stands out this year in the A10. I think the A10 is going to be a very good conference.
yeah, for sure.
Personally, I think the league is getting 3 bids. I really do. The automatic and 2 other teams I think are going to make it. So I got one more question for you, and I'll let you go. GW is a very well-respected academic institution. I was curious, what's your major? And hopefully I'm talking 15, 20 years down the road, but when your basketball career is over, what do you see yourself doing?
Right now I'm majoring in sociology with a minor in communications. And later on down the line, I feel like sports will always be in my life just because of who I am. So I definitely want to get into like sports broadcasting and things like that. But I really like one of my biggest goals. I said this yesterday. Like I want to open my own school here in DC. That's one of my
like a
what
kind of school?
Like a public school, just like build a school. Like I just want to build a school here in DC. Like that's my overall main goal, long-term goal.
What a great goal. That's a great goal. Yeah, that's awesome. Education is something that often gets swept under the rug these days. And as politicians argue about nonsense, they forget about our kids. And you would know about politicians talking about nonsense because you're right in the middle of it there.
Right here in DC.
Right. So, all right. Well, that's a great goal. So Darren, I wish you the best. I want to thank you for joining me today. I wish you and the team the best. And
Thank you.
please come back and visit us down the road. It would be great to have you. And also tell Garrett, we're thinking of him and we'd like to have him on the show when he feels like, when he's getting closer to playing, probably next year, but yeah, we'd love to have him on too. Maybe you could both come on together. That would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let him know for sure.
All right, Darren. Thanks so much. All right, it was great talking with Darren and Max. I appreciate them taking the time to join the show. Also, it was great talking to Jake about the A10, one of the conferences he knows best. And as always, I want to thank all of our listeners. If you ever miss an episode, you can get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. We'll be back next week to continue our college conference previews. Actually, it's going to be in a few days. We're going to be rattling them off rather quickly as we less than 10 days to the start of the season. So we'll be doing the American next, and we'll talk with some more special guests, and we're going to keep on chugging all the way up to opening day. See you soon, folks.